It was just after midnight on January 2, 2018, when a chilling 911 call came in from a small town in Texas. On the other end of the line was Sandra Garner, her voice frantic and panicked. "I need the police. My husband's been shot," she cried. Officers arrived at the scene within minutes to find John Garner, Sandra's husband of 18 years, lying motionless in their bedroom. He was still warm to the touch. But it was too late, he had been shot in his sleep. Sandra told authorities that a masked intruder had broken into their home, shot John, and escaped into the night. Her story would mark the beginning of a shocking and complex murder investigation that would turn Sandra from grieving widow to the prime suspect. Later that night, Sandra was brought to the Ellis County Sheriff's Office for questioning. Calm but visibly shaken, she recounted the terrifying events. According to her, she had woken up to the sound of gunshots and saw a tall white man in a hoodie, jeans, and a mask standing in the dark with a flashlight and a gun. She claimed the intruder blamed John for ruining his life, saying he'd lost his home, his wife, and his child because of him. Sandra said the man demanded money, insisting John always bragged about keeping cash in the house. Fearing for her life, she led him to a lockbox in the closet and handed him what she believed to be $188. Then, in a bizarre twist, the man ordered her to sit down and count to 100, warning her that if he heard sirens, he would return to kill her. Only then, Sandra said, did she dial 911. As investigators dug deeper, they began to unravel the life Sandra and John Garner had built together. Sandra, a twice-divorced mother of two, met John at a packaging company where they both worked as managers. Despite a 13-year age gap, the two fell in love and married in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. To outsiders, their relationship appeared strong. John was described as a devoted husband who stood by Sandra after she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2014. He became her caretaker, her emotional support, and the sole provider for their household. But beneath the surface, there were signs of strain. Sandra admitted to battling depression and even having suicidal thoughts. John, on the other hand, was known as a tough, sometimes volatile boss who drank heavily and fired people frequently. While their marriage seemed like a united front, investigators began to question whether everything was as perfect as it seemed. Back at the crime scene, investigators began piecing together the details, and something didn't sit right. The Garner home wasn't just any home, it was practically an armory. John owned a staggering collection of firearms, 49 pistols and over a dozen rifles, stashed in nearly every room of the house. He was a man prepared for anything, always wanting a gun within reach. Yet curiously, every weapon was accounted for, except one. A .38 caliber revolver, the same type used to kill John, was missing. The tension escalated when, less than 24 hours after the murder, police found that very weapon hidden inside Sandra's Mustang. When asked about it, Sandra appeared stunned, insisting she had no idea how the gun got there. But for detectives, it was a turning point. Suddenly, the grieving widow wasn't just a witness, she was their prime suspect. With the discovery of the murder weapon in her car, Sandra's world began to unravel. She was brought back to the Ellis County Sheriff's Office for further questioning. This time, the tone was different. Investigators pressed hard, asking when she had put the gun in the car. Sandra swore up and down that she hadn't, her voice trembling with disbelief. "I didn't put a gun in my car," she insisted, but detectives weren't convinced. The story of a masked intruder was beginning to sound more like fiction, especially as Sandra's own internet history raised red flags. On her iPad, police found disturbing search terms: how to kill someone in their sleep, how to make it look like an accident. As suspicions mounted, Sandra stuck to her story, but her denial only seemed to dig the hole deeper. And now, her own son would make a move that would change the case forever. Just when it seemed the case couldn't take a darker turn, Sandra's own son, Wes, entered the picture and stunned everyone. Investigators were eager to speak with him, as he was the last person to talk to John before the murder. Wes initially seemed cooperative, but what came next blindsided Sandra. He began casting suspicion on his own mother, telling police she kept a revolver in her car and pointing out inconsistencies in her story. Then came the bombshell. He told family members that police had found the murder weapon in Sandra's vehicle. When he confronted her, Sandra reportedly exploded in anger, yelling, "You can tell them to F*** off." From that moment, Wes became both a key witness and a source of deep betrayal. The woman who had once called him her rock now faced the unthinkable. Her own son may have helped turn the world against her. As Sandra sat behind bars, her bond set at a staggering $2 million. Her defense team began to pick apart the prosecution's case, and they found plenty to question. Key mistakes in the investigation started to surface. The crime scene hadn't been properly secured, first responders had trampled through the bedroom, and crucial evidence may have been lost. Investigators had also failed to bag Sandra's hands for gunshot residue immediately, a step that could have confirmed whether she fired a weapon. To make matters worse, important crime scene photos mysteriously went missing. These errors cast a shadow over the entire case, and Sandra's defense attorney seized the opportunity. He argued that not only was the investigation botched, but the real killer may have been overlooked entirely, and the spotlight slowly shifted to someone the police never officially considered a suspect: Wes, Sandra's own son. As the trial loomed, Sandra's defense team turned the focus squarely onto Wes, and what they uncovered raised serious questions. Wes, they argued, had both motive and opportunity. He was reportedly in need of money and mistakenly believed he was named in John's will. Despite telling police he had an alibi, watching Netflix at home, the timeline didn't quite add up. Investigators didn't even realize they were using the wrong time zone to verify his story. And while Wes had been quick to accuse his mother, his own behavior became increasingly suspicious. He seemed unusually involved in the investigation, feeding police details about Sandra's gun and even her behavior. To the defense, it looked less like concern and more like a setup. Could it be that Sandra was being framed by the very person she had once trusted most? After a month-long trial, 27 witnesses, and endless twists, the jury finally reached a verdict, and the courtroom held its breath. Sandra Garner, who had spent over a year behind bars awaiting trial, took the stand in her own defense, a risky move that could make or break the case. The prosecution hammered her with questions about the suspicious Google searches, the missing gun, and her emotional reactions, or lack thereof. But Sandra held firm, maintaining her innocence. When the jury returned after just 3 hours of deliberation, the tension was palpable. Then came the words no one saw coming: not guilty. Sandra's daughter burst into tears of relief, hugging her mother as if a weight had been lifted after nearly 2 years. But while Sandra walked free, the verdict divided the community. Some believed justice had been served, while others were convinced a killer had just escaped punishment. Despite her acquittal, Sandra Garner's life would never return to what it once was. The murder of her husband shattered not only her world, but her family as well. The most devastating blow came from within. Sandra and her son Wes are now completely estranged. She no longer speaks to him and has said, with heartbreaking clarity, "I don't have a son anymore." Her daughter, Andrea, stands by her, but the pain of losing John and being betrayed by Wes still lingers. Meanwhile, John's parents remain convinced that Sandra got away with murder, and for them, justice was never served. As the dust settles, one truth remains: someone killed John Garner that night, but with no new suspects and a fractured family left behind. The question still haunts everyone touched by this case: did the system free an innocent woman, or let a murderer walk free?